What's up, guys? It's Josh from Soul Studios. I just got a Heritage P.Lane compressor in, and I also have a Chandler RS124, a Highland Dynamics BG2, and the compressor section of the Retro Powerstrip. So I had just borrowed a BG2 recently and was filming some content on that and saw the announcement about the P.Lane. I didn't really think I could get it here in time to finish this video up, but placed a pre-order and I was pleasantly surprised to get it within just a few days. So let's get right into it. I will say I've done other RS124 comparisons in the past, mainly hardware to plugins. They've always been a challenge to calibrate because anytime you have compressors where there's no threshold, you have to drive the input to get the compressor to engage. So I did my usual calibration method here with the 80 hertz tone, 1 kilohertz and 8 kilohertz blend. And these compressors just sounded very different. So I'm going to just do this one by ear. Now I have the most experience with the Chandler, so I'm probably going to start with that one on most sources, do what I normally do there, and then either try to match the other units to the Chandler or find something different that I like on them, maybe even better. Also, I never want to do shootouts to try to make one company look good and one look bad. I just hope that if you're interested in this style of compression, that you can take something useful from this video and then go out and grab one or two of these and get them in your own studio and see what you think about how you like to work with it on your own tracks. All right, one of my favorite places to use an RS124 is on drum bus. So I have all my drums summed down to a mono aux channel here. And let's check out the dry signal a bit first. Okay, first up, let's check out the Chandler. This is something I do often. We're jumping right in. We're gonna push all of these units pretty much as hard as they can go to get a good feel for how they respond. So there's really no way to sugarcoat this. The P.Lane sticks out like a sore thumb on this particular example. Now, I put this shootout off for a few days because this really bothered me. Because like I said, it's never my intention to make someone look good or bad. I just want to provide you with information. And I don't gain anything financially from saying any one of these are better than the other. But what I've found is pushing these to the limit. Like I have the P.Lane input all the way at 10. The Chandler is almost at 10. Highland Dynamics is about 8.5. And the Powerstrip is also all the way up. So I'm pushing these all hard intentionally, but the P.Lane, for whatever reason, it just doesn't have the same sensitivity on the input that the other units do. And so what I found early on is it tends to sound cleaner, which could be good or bad depending on what you're wanting. But the Chandler and the BG2 have the ability to change either the input. Well, on the BG2, you can change the input impedance from either 600 or 150 ohms. On the RS124, you can change the output impedance to either 600 or 200 ohms. And that really changes the gain structure. Now, the Chandler is set to 600 right now. That's where I typically like to use it. The 200 is a little bit thicker, a little darker. I will use it at times, but for these examples, it's on 600. The BG2 is on 150 right now because I wanted to really push it and be aggressive. But with the P.Lane, like I said, I am dimed on the input and I just can't drive it nearly like, listen to the difference in the amount of cymbals and room that's being brought up here one more time. I mean, hearing those two examples, you would swear like there's no way that they're level match, which I'm using Hoffa 4U blind test, by the way. But what it is that the transients of the kick and snare are level matched and are the same, but there's so much room and cymbal information being brought up from the Chandler and the BG2 in particular that they instantly sound a lot louder because things are compressed, low level things are brought up, high level things are clamped down a bit. So when I first did this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be hard to demonstrate because, like I said, they're so different. So what I've done, if you do wind up with a P-Lane, we can only send so much signal without clipping the converter. So I'm sending as much as I can without clipping the converter. And what I've found is that using something like the Bluey, or if you have a preamp or something like that, if you put it in front of the P-Lane, so listen to this. Let's do P-Lane just by itself first, and then we're going to engage the Bluey, and I'll explain what happened. Okay, so now we're getting closer, right? So there's a dry wet blend on the Bluey. I've got it all the way to dry, and just engaging it gives it a little bit of a signal boost when you put the Bluey in the chain. So that's a way that I'm pushing the P-Lane harder post-converter without having to worry about clipping the converter on the way back in, because I can just, dial the output back. So now let's listen with the Bluey pushing more gain into the P-Lane and see what we think. So now it feels like, okay, maybe we're in the neighborhood, maybe we could set these similar. So my takeaway from this is that when I saw the P-Lane announced, I had really hoped to maybe pick up a pair to use on drum aux, because of course it's a lot more expensive to get a pair of Chandlers or Retro, or you could do the Retro Revolver, which is a stereo unit, or a pair of the BG2s. So the P-Lane would be awesome in this application, but my problem is now, knowing the application that I want it to use for, I'm probably not going to be able to push it like I want to. So it's just something to think about. I don't know if there's a way somebody with more technical knowledge than I have could think of a way to modify it, maybe to put an impedance switch on it where you could adjust it to where you have more gain coming in, where you could easily do it like you can on the BG2, or just a way to have more gain coming in to drive the tubes and the transformers harder. So it appears that the P-Lane, it can get aggressive, it can get into that territory, but you're going to have a workaround unless you modify it somehow. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that if you're thinking drums and you do sometimes crush things like this, trying to get the huge larger than life sound, I don't think you're going to get it out of the box with the P-Lane. All right, next up is bass. And what I've done here is just dial in my favorite sound on each unit separately. These are not going to be as extreme settings as on the drum example, so let's see how they stand up with something a little more subtle, taking advantage of that super slow release that sounds so good on bass, extending out notes and so forth. All right, dry signal first. All right, so interesting. I mean, I think they're a lot closer out of the box on bass, you know, not pushing as hard as we did on drums. All right, let's check out lead vocal, and I'm going to push them all again because when I reach for an RS124 on a vocal, I want some character, I want some tone. So we're gonna drive into these. Another reason is because he's singing very soft in the beginning, and then the chorus later is a lot bigger. And so I want to bring that intimate vocal in the beginning up and give it some vibe and some energy to be able to cut through the mix. So let's listen to the first line of the song soloed, and then I'm actually going to bring in the rest of the band and hear them all in context of the mix.
When I see a problem, I run. When I see a problem, I run. When I see a problem, I run. When I see a problem, I run.
All right, let's hear more of the song and bringing in the rest of the mix to hear how they sit with everything else.
When I see a problem, I run. The walls that you build, and they must weigh a ton. And I'm sorry I haven't been much fun, but I can't control these fears. And you said that you understood, and you knew in your heart that one day I'd be good, and we'd smoke all of those cigarettes and catch up on all that I missed these years.
All right, here's the bigger note that starts the chorus. I do want to loop that and hear how each one handles it.
Lately, birds just sing. Lately, birds just sing. Lately, birds just sing. Lately, birds just sing. And the sun warms my skin, and I feel like I'm finally living again. When I hear that song, well, it takes me right back to that place. Oh, we had so much fun. Remember when money was never around, but somehow we'd laugh and we'd drink all night. Lately, birds just sing, and the sun warms my skin.
All right, closing thoughts. Like I mentioned before, I don't have any interest in promoting one company over another, or I don't even want to say buy this, don't buy that, because I just don't think anybody should influence another engineer to that point, because we all work differently, we all hear differently. There's a style and aesthetic that I have that may be polar opposite of what you have. So I hope this is useful and you glean some information from it to where if you say, hey, I really liked this one, I'd like to get it in my own studio and check it out, then that would make me happy and feel like I've made something useful here. I do want to say with the P-Lane, I don't think if you already own a RS124 or a BG2 or Powerstrip or Revolver that you're going to sell one of those, buy a P-Lane, and be completely happy with that and have some money left over. I would love for that to be the case. But like most things in life, it seems to be you get what you pay for. Although I do think the P-Lane is going to be awfully hard to beat at that $799 price range. If you love RS124 sounds like I do, I think you should probably explore any and maybe all of these if it's a sound that you love and you're going to use a lot like I do. I own the Powerstrip. I own the Chandler. I am probably going to send back the P-Lane just because I don't think it's going to do what I'd hoped it would do on the drum bus. And demoing this BG2, I think I'm going to end up buying one of those as well. And something else I'll mention, this BG2 is the version that most people have heard. Bryce is making a Mark II version now. If you follow Highland Dynamics on Instagram, I found that to be the best place to keep up. But he has gone even faster with a couple more attack, adding a variable attack because you just have fast and slow here. And he's added some new faster times, which I hope to get that in at some point and hear what he's done there. But very impressed across the board. Like I said, you're talking about much more expensive units with the RS124, with the BG2 and the Powerstrip. So I applaud Heritage for taking a swing at this and bringing it in at that $799 price range. Although I think even if you compress more gently and more subtly with an RS124 style compressor, anytime that, and I spent way more time off camera than I am on camera here experimenting with these before I ever even started this. Anytime you're compressing 2 or 3 dB on the P-Lane, it's not as rich and it doesn't have as much harmonic content to my ears as the Chandler or the BG2. Now the Powerstrip falls somewhere in between, and I think that's great because it's geared at being tracking. I don't want the Powerstrip to be as thick as the Chandler or the BG2 because when I'm tracking, that's not something I usually want to do. I want to save that for mix time. But the P-Lane, it's just a cleaner RS124. You can experiment enough to get that slow hug, that slow release that I think is so sonically pleasing with these kind of compressors, but it just always sounds cleaner. I couldn't seem to get around that other than pushing into it with the Bluey or something else to drive it even harder. But even then, it's closer, but it's just not quite the same. So if you've tried a Chandler or a BG2 in the past and you're like, that was way too much color for my taste, the P-Lane may be exactly what you're looking for. But like I said, if you do like the Chandler and you like the BG2, I don't think you're gonna pick up a P-Lane and be completely satisfied. That's just my honest opinion, and you can listen to all this and decide for yourself. The other thing I'll mention, seeing the fastest release on the P-Lane and seeing it labeled SF, and they're calling it super fast, but of course if you've used a Chandler or the original plugin, you're hoping that it's going to be super fuse. I didn't quite find that to be the case either, although it is cool to have a fast release option. It just doesn't get as aggressive, and I'm still not quite sure what happens with super fuse mode, but I think it ties the attack and the release together in a way that's much more aggressive and cool. So anyway, I've talked enough. I hope this is helpful. I appreciate you being here and taking the time to watch. Coming up soon, I'm gonna shoot out the Stam ADG and the Bluey because I've been asked about those two a lot Just know that as I continue to add content to this channel, not every manufacturer is a fan of comparisons like these, so you're probably not going to see me sponsored by such and such. So if you like what I'm doing here and you want to see more of it, I ask you to click the heart. Whatever value you get out of this video, just click the heart, send it my way, and that will help me make more content. Because like I said, I've seen a lot of behind the scenes and how things work in this particular industry. I've said no to a lot of things, and this is the only way I want to do it. I want to be helpful. The only currency that actually matters to me in this pro audio YouTube space is trust and respect. And so if I don't have that, I don't feel like I have anything. I would like to keep this direct line to listening to what you guys are commenting and asking for and providing that. If the manufacturers love me, great. And if they don't, I'm sorry. All I can do is run these things through the paces and try to give an honest representation. So subscribe if you're interested in more. I'm going to do a separate review on the BG2 that I think will be really cool because I'm going to go a different direction than I did here. And like I said, the Stam 80G versus Bluey, which I've been asked about a lot. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate your time. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.